Of that.
There we go. Thank you for that. Okay, for today's meeting, Antonio and I are delighted, and thank you, Antonio, for making today's call as well. Antonio and I are delighted. We're going to share some exciting updates in just a few minutes. So of our regular updates, we've also decided to add a little small extra little bit, which I'll talk about in a second. Then we're going to focus on a topic called digital nudging. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the term. If you're not, it's a bit, you're going to hear more and more of it. But it just flowed very naturally from the excellent article that Antonio published last month in the Harvard, which if you haven't read, we strongly recommend. And, you know, it will just naturally flow on. Supporting that. So we're going to talk about behavior in the workplace. We're going to have a breakout and discussion as usual. And of course, being the Institute, we'll start and finish on time. If I can encourage you, please do put your location in, you know, just so people can see where you are. So Gudrun's over in Reykjavik, Larry's over in Jakarta. We really have an international audience. So thanks everyone for dialing in and joining. So here we go. We have a little bit, Gerald, hey, we have a little bit of a new segment that Antonio and I talked about last week that we'd like to do at the beginning of each meeting now. And that is just share something that's happening globally around implementation. And this is, some of you may have already reading the book, The Big Things Get Done, and this comes from it. Only 8.5% of large projects are delivered on time and on budget. And this is the research done by Bant, and I don't know how you pronounce his name, Fliverberg and Dan Gardner. Of those 8.5 projects, 0.5 of projects were completed on time and on budget and produced expected benefits. So in other words, 99.5% of projects failed to deliver as promised, which of course is a horrendous failure rate. Good news for all of us who are SIPs and implementation, because it means there's a growing, you know, a good market out there. And just as an example, some of you may have read, Antonio and I posted on this when it happened about a couple of years ago, the French railway embarrassingly built new trains that were too wide for some of the stations. And it cost them $20 billion to correct and fix. And we just don't learn from our mistakes. And I had to get permission from Antonio because this is his hometown or home country. So I did check that I wouldn't get in trouble. But back in the news, and we posted this a couple of weeks ago, that France made the mistake and then Spain made the same mistake, very similar. In Spain, the Spanish Transport Secretary had to resign after the new trains were too big for the tunnels.
Oh, wow.
Costing $275 million. Now, there's a theme that goes through both of these stories. And the problem is when projects are done in silos and individually and not connecting end to end so everybody can see what's happening, this is where these issues surface. And today, we're going to be talking about AI and data. And globally, of course, data is the magic that allows us to get a bigger picture and to everyone to see what's going on. So that was just a little bit of a teaser into what Antonio and I have been looking at. Updates very quickly in terms of our members, we're rapidly close to the 500. Hopefully we'll get there in the next few months, but we're at 430. We have 127 members have taken the SIP exam with an 81% success rate. So, you know, it's meant to be tough. It's not meant to be easy. You do need to have done the work. So, you know, it's a fair reflection. And a new area, and Jita, I saw you just dialed in. We were just talking with Jita, who's one of our Institute fellows. We're looking and developing an exciting new area around NGOs. So what's the difference in implementation around NGO? And I'm delighted we have some NGOs now as part of the Institute. Jita has very kindly, on top all the other commitments offered. And we also have to say congratulations, because it's Dr. Jita now, and she just finished her dissertation and was graduated as a doctor. So congratulations, Jita. Give her a round of applause. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Hey,
a lot.
You're there. I'm so glad you're there and you didn't miss that one. All right. Now, next bit of news that we'd like to share with everyone is, a drum roll, please. Here we go. The Great Implementation Virtual Conference, the 23rd and 24th of May. Please mark your calendars. This is the save the date notification. Antonio and I have been working on it for the last few weeks. We've locked in the date. We've even locked in some of the speakers. I'm going to share it a moment, but we've called it the Great Implementation because we're both optimists. Not the Great Resignation, which was all about the negativity and the rebalance. Now, everyone is transforming, either a little bit or major, from traditional to digital. We're going to hear from Professor Michael in a moment, a few, about what's happening and from his perspective. So it's the Great Implementation is the title for the conference. It will be virtual again this year. And the subtitle is the hands-on SIR, so Strategy Implementation Roadmap, Tools and Tips. And it's going to be a conference not for watching afterwards, but for active participation. So the speakers are only presenting like a TEDx for 16, 17 minutes. And the rest of that time is going to be given to discussions, reverse town halls, panels. So we're going to have a variety of different things going on. So the first question, and we will post this out on the email as well, if anyone would like to work with Antonio and I to help just come up with a creative way we're going to design it, we're happy, for people to step up and to volunteer. Please do let us know by email. I don't put it in the chat box because, as I said, I'm on the road at the moment in the middle of nowhere in Malaysia, so email will be safer. So please do email Antonio and myself if you'd like to help in terms of putting the content, the design of the conference together, because we want it to be hard-hitting, practical tools, but it's not a conference where you sit a few weeks later and, oh, what did I miss? A 45 one-hour presentation by someone. The value is going to be in participating, and we appreciate with the time difference because we have members from New Zealand, Australia, Philippines, all the way over to Brazil, New York, and Toronto. So we can't do it, perfect for everyone. So we split it over the 2 days, and you can see it's 2 to 5 p.m. Central European time on the 23rd, and 9 to 12 Central European time on the 24th. And I'm delighted, you can see down the bottom, the keynote for this biannual conference this year, Paul Leonard has very kindly agreed to do the opening keynote. For those who may not be familiar with Paul's work, he's head of strategy at PwC, or Strategy & Co as it's branded, and just published recently last year his book called Beyond Digital. And Paul is very passionate about implementation. He's also the one who published in Harvard that only 8% of leaders are able to craft and implement strategy. So Paul has kindly offered his time to open the conference, and he'll be talking very much about the tools and techniques of implementation. I'm very delighted also that Lena Gold from Google is going to be talking about, she's I've got to get this right now. I've just forgot, I've forgotten her official title. It'll come back to me in a moment. But Lena has been at Google for many years. She has a phenomenal role there, and she's going to be talking about workplace environment and how Google deal with that and sharing some of the insights. And we're going to ask for questions in advance. She'll send out the brief, and we're going to do very much a Q&A around the challenges and what we can learn from Google. And the third, on the 23rd, that we've locked in is, some of you may recognize the gentleman from Thinkers 50. This is Stuart and Des, overlooking the Thames in London. Stuart and Des are the founders and runners of an organization called Thinkers 50, and they're going to present on what it means to be a thought leader. And they work with leaders around the world. They're holding their conference in November. Antonio, I don't know if you're committed yet, but I will certainly be there. You know, and it's the top 5, you know, they're very good at bringing top talent together, and they're going to share their experience of what it means to be a thought leader. And there's more, before Michael scolds me for talking too much. One more key thing to share, Michael, before we get to yourself, which is we're also delighted to announce that on the 24th, we're going to have the first ever Institute Strategy Implementation Awards. And this is going to be for a company, an individual who's demonstrated their ability and capabilities within SIR, our framework. We've got about 3 months, so Antonio and I are working very hard on it. Again, we're going to ask today if anyone would like to contribute and volunteer to step up on this, then please do email us and let us know. But we want to launch it this year and make it one of the top recognition. Well, there's very little recognition in our field, so it won't be too difficult, but we want to recognize the company and individual who really stood out over the last 12, 24 months in the work that they are done. And we're just putting together at this point the categories, and we'll have that very shortly finalized. So if anyone would like to work with us on that, then please do let us know. Antonio, how did I do?
Very good. Thank you, Robin. I think it's exciting. I'm glad to announce this. We've been thinking about it for a while. And so, yeah, something new, something fresh, where we all learn, participate, and open new connections. I think that's what we bring to the table. So look forward to it and hope everybody can join.
All right, thanks, Antonio. Do you want to, if I've got my slides right? Yeah, so next I'm going to introduce Michael. Do you want to just share a little about last month and your thoughts on AI from your perspective, and then we'll introduce Michael and hand over to him?
Sure. We had a very interactive session where I presented a bit what I wrote in Harvard Business Review, more on project management, the disruption that is bringing. We're up to 80% of the current project management task might be disrupted. So we just brainstorm around strategy implementation, what would be the connotations. There is, of course, the view that without data, you cannot use these technologies, which is partially true, but I think that's changing very fast. So yeah, I think I look forward to the presentation and the discussion today. Very excited about that. It's really a good fit from what we talked last time.
Thanks, Antonio. And Michael, I've made you co-host, so you're okay on that?
All set, my friend.
All right, so here we go. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce Professor Michael Netsley. Now, I'm smiling as I say this because he did this for me a few weeks ago. I gave a keynote at the American Chamber of Congress, and Michael was kind enough to introduce me. So what goes around comes around. So Michael has been a great friend for many years. We're both in Singapore. We met at Singapore Management University, and we used to run a course on implementation where Michael presented on neuroscience perspective, and I did it very much from the SIR perspective.
Yep, we lost him.
we actively told people, you know, we would challenge each other, and we had a lot of fun in the course. Since then, Michael's gone on very much to build a company. He's the founder and CEO of Extend My Runway, an award-winning business school faculty member, and consulted with several firms, including EY's People Advisory Service. He does a lot of coaching and teaching for IMD, which is the business school out of Switzerland. His PhD is from the University of Minnesota. And he's currently, because he hasn't got enough on his plate and having a new startup and everything else, he's currently pursuing a second master's degree in applied neuroscience from the King's College in London. And he's also the co-creator of the Digital Maturity Index, which is a phenomenally good tool for identifying your digital awareness, because I'm the other co-creator. So on that note, Michael, I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to you.
Thank you, my friend. And if I am able to take questions by 7:50, is that a good target now?
Yeah, we will take it.
Okay. Well, that gives us 30 minutes, and I'm going to dive right in. And thank you for joining tonight. And
today for many others.
Today, depending upon where you are in the world. I think for Wayne, it's this morning, if I'm correct. And we are going to end on the subject of artificial intelligence, digital nudging, and its connection to implementation. But we're going to have some fun first, setting this up and understanding why is this even a topic? Why are we taking a half an hour of your busy day to even discuss this notion of digital nudging? Now, you've all experienced this most likely. I'm an Apple Watch wearer, and whenever I have an appointment coming up, the haptics buzz, and it reminds me that I need to change my behavior. This is probably the most elementary version of what a nudge is. Now, you'll see they actually get a lot more advanced than that as we start looking at behavioral science, but this sort of sets the tone. Now, the question, of course, is going to be, why are we even talking about nudging? So I'm going to set the stage here with two questions. Please type your answer just directly into the chat box. And with this session being recorded, we'll be able to look at what those answers are later. But question number one, I behave rationally. If you completely agree with that, write a 10 in the chat box. If you go, well, maybe half the time, put a 5 in the chat box. And if you go, nope, not me, never, put a 1 in the chat box, or any variation between those will be great. I see we got a bunch of these coming in. What are people saying? Oh, lots of 5s. You guys are playing it safe.
They're hedging their bets.
A few 7s in here, a 5.5. Okay, is if I just sort of eyeball this, half the time to more would be our answer on this. Okay. Now remember your answer here, because I will circle back and answer this fully. Now, question number 2, how many choices does the average person make each day? And your answers will be either A, B, C, or D. 4,500 choices a day, 12,000, 22,500, or 35,000. Yeah, give or take here. This isn't precise. What are we thinking here? So we got quite a few A's and B's coming through. We got one D, so one person at 35,000, several at 22,500. But if I want to eyeball this, I want to say it's probably the 12,500 or the 22,500. So the B to C range seems to be your primary preference here. All right. Well, I am going to answer these for you, and let me go ahead and answer this one first before I come back to the rationality question. You make actually more than 35,000 choices in a given day. More than 35,000 choices. And this could, I was thinking about this week. This could be as simple as Robin and I had lunch recently. Where am I going to step on a rainy day? Do I step to the left? Do I step to the right? It could be as simple as that, because either my foot gets wet or my foot gets less wet. How high is my chair going to be? Am I going to walk on the left side of the street or the right side of the street? Am I going to pause to let somebody go through the door before me? All of these choices we make every day add up to more than 35,000 choices you make in a single day. And of course, your implementation choices are going to be in there as well. So that's a lot of choices that we're making on every single
Michael,
day.
I'm going to jump in. Wayne's asking for the source, the research source behind that. Is that from your own company or?
No. This is just sort of a general data point that I picked up out of the behavioral sciences community. And Wayne, if you give me a minute to think about this, I will be able to tell you where I got that from. I can
we can
see
do it
it
during the breakout.
Yeah, I can see it visually, but just not.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So what I want to do is illustrate now what tends to happen with all of those choices. And rather than a breakout, we have two actors. We have two volunteers. Wayne is one of our volunteers. Wayne, I think I assigned you the buyer role, if I'm correct. And
Yes.
Is it Said? Is that correct?
It is Saad, yes.
Saad. Oh,
Yes,
thank you.
Saad.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is
Um,
the source I've added already, the study for the 35,000 choices.
Oh, thank you. So you are our seller in this role play. Okay. And the rest of us, we're going to watch what happens, because Wayne and Saad are going to have 3 minutes to basically discuss the Ninja Mug. Now, is the proud owner of that Ninja Mug, and the other person wants the Ninja Mug. And what I encourage you to do is take notes on, basically what are their negotiating tactics and negotiating positions. That's what we're going to take note of here. So Wayne, have you had a chance to glance at your brief?
Yes, I have.
And Saad, you had a chance to glance at your brief?
Yes, I did.
All right, I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes, gentlemen. You are on the floor. Go. You have 3 minutes.
Hey, good day, Sad. I couldn't help notice that you've got this pretty interesting mug on your desk, and can I ask, where did you get that?
My friend, I actually got that as a gift for me from my boss, which I really admire and respect and enjoyed working with. It's a highly valuable, high value gift. It's been given to me at that point of time, and it was a recognition for me for passing the Six Sigma Black Belt.
Wow, that's quite commendable for you to receive. I've been looking for one actually very similar to that, coincidentally. Would you happen to know where your boss got that from?
I really can't tell, but I am happy to go with you to the market and go for shopping there if you would like.
Oh, well, that would be wonderful. Thanks so much. It'd be great. And maybe we can have a coffee with that mug.
Yes, definitely, man. The coffee will be mine, and we'll get you a mug for your coffee.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'd be curious to know. I've looked online, I've looked everywhere, and it just seems like it's not available anywhere. It's like maybe it's not made anymore. And I just thought it'd be something really cool for somebody that I know. And I'm wondering, would you be willing to like part with it?
Well, I cannot part with it, and for me, I like it's a high value for myself, and it's a gift that I remember my boss for it and everything. So, but I think we can consider going to the shop again, and I will try to find you some other cup.
Okay, well, see, it's kind of something I don't know, it just strikes me as something I'd really like to get a hold of, but I'm a little nervous because I've looked everywhere online. I can't find it anywhere. And for what it's worth, everything has a price. So, I mean, if I made you an offer on it, would you consider it in any way?
Would you like me to help you look online for the cup? I promise you, hopefully I will get it for you, man. Maybe if you
Really?
wait for me from 10 to 15 years, I definitely will get that for you.
Well, I would definitely consider that. That would be pretty amazing.
And ding, 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 ding. There's our 3 minutes. Okay. First of all, how about a round of applause for our role play actors here?
Thank you.
Let,
Thank you.
let me
Mr. Michael, I was really gonna give it to him if he only say that he passed the Six Sigma belt exam. And I
Oh,
would
okay.
recognize that for him, you know.
Okay. Okay. And Wayne, I'm curious, how much were you going to offer for it?
Well, at first I was willing to offer $20.
Holy
You know,
cow.
Well, it cost it cost apparently it's worth like $10. I figured, okay, I'm willing to give him double his money for it. But then I'm starting to think, then maybe it's pretty rare item, and it started to increase in value as the conversation went on.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Actually, I missed a slide here. I was going to have you guys start on this. So let me fill in the rest of the story here. So obviously we had this ninja mug. Wayne wanted it and Saad had it. And Wayne's goal was to try and acquire that mug. And typically we will get an offer, but not in the $20 range. Wayne, you're the first person to ever give me a number that high on this, because both were given a brief and they knew that it had a $10 price tag, and it's just a coffee mug. All right, there's nothing special about it other than its ninja shape. It's just a cheap novelty coffee mug. And here is what happens. Now we're going to start with Wayne, but then we'll go to Syed on this. I've been running this role play for years, and this is going back to the notion that we make 35,000 choices a day. Buyers are averaging in my database an offer of about $4.25. So the original mug was $10. It's been used for a couple of years. It's it's had somebody else's lips on it for a couple of years. Buyers are averaging around $4.25. Sellers, however, are asking $7.50 on average in my data set. Okay. And once they, if they quickly settle, it tends to end up in the middle. So $5.50 to $6 on this. But the important thing to note here is that this is just a cheap novelty coffee mug. There is nothing special about it other than the ninja shape. So what we are seeing here, and Syed, I was just so struck by your answer. I'm not willing to part with it. What this does is illustrate two ideas that shape the way we make decisions. One is going to be loss aversion, and the other is an endowment effect. And I can illustrate these two ideas a little bit better with chocolate. All right, I'm going to add chocolate to the equation here. And in this same vein, Nobel laureate Richard Thaler will, in his postgraduate classes at the University of Chicago, break the class into three cohorts. One cohort is the control group, and they can choose, do you want a mug or do you want the chocolate? And his data says 56% are choosing the mug, 44% are choosing the chocolate. It's fairly close to 50-50, as you would rationally expect, right? But if people are given the mug first and then invited to trade that mug for a piece of chocolate, 89% keep the mug. And if somebody's given chocolate first and asked to trade it for the mug, 90% keep the chocolate. Nowhere are we even remotely close to what you would expect to be a rational decision, which is going to be closer to 50-50 on this. Nowhere is that happening. So when we put this together, Syed, unwilling to get rid of that beloved Ninja mug, people who are unwilling to trade their mug for chocolate or their chocolate for a mug, what we're seeing is, number one, loss aversion. Wayne, $20 would be an outlier in my data set. The average number of, I think it was $4.50, far below the $10 original price of that mug. People aren't going to offer too much for a used mug. It's not worth it to them. You know, I would be giving up money unnecessarily to do that. So we're trying to avoid a loss. And in one study, what they saw is that people will try to avoid that loss to a degree that is 2.5 times greater than their focus on or their worry about a gain, a potential gain. So the loss weighed 2.5 times greater in their choice than did the gain. But going back to Syed, this, and again, I just loved your answer. You weren't going to part with this. Because it's mine, I value it more. The endowment effect. The endowment effect. Okay. So it could be as simple as a ballpoint pen. Robin might say to me, Michael, I need a pen. I might loan it to him, but I would say, I need it back. Now, do I need a $1.50 pen that badly? No, I don't. But it's my pen. You see where I'm going? So that's that endowment effect at work here.
Michael,
And
I'm going to ask a quick, oh, sorry. Can I jump in with a quick question that you might be coming to?
Yep.
So the one, the bias, I mean, the 2.5 times is stunning. And thank you to Wayne and Syed for jumping in and setting that up with them. Thank you. So, you know, we see it all the time in implementation that employees won't let go of their current work because it's their responsibility, their job. Is it the same bias? Is that something you're going to talk about, or do you want to answer now?
No, I'll jump on that now, and that could very well be the endowment effect at work there. It could be politics, so loss aversion. How do I, as the work gets reorganized, how do I stand to lose in this equation? And those loss of relationships, the loss of certainty and comfort and confidence in the work that I'm doing, that potential loss or perceived loss, we would say, would weigh about 2.5 times greater in their mind than any benefits of doing the work in a new way. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Well explained.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. It's not that people don't pay attention to the gains. It's just that the perceived or potential losses weigh so much heavier. Now I'm going to connect the dots here. I'm going to connect the dots here to the 35,000 choices we make and these cognitive biases. There are, keep in mind what your answer was on that first question. The majority said, 5 and above. So basically we're rational actors is what you said here. This was the center of gravity for your answers. But if we're making 35,000 choices a day, we do not have time to stop and go, it's rainy, that puddle might be deeper than it looks like. Should I step left, step right? We do not have time to 35,000 times a day do these sort of pro-con judgments in our mind and make a rational choice. We simply don't. We rely on mental shortcuts, and I think that's on my next slide here. We rely on mental shortcuts, and we do so because, number one, they're simply good enough. It doesn't matter if my foot gets a little bit wet when I choose to step a little bit left or a little bit right. It just doesn't matter. So whatever I decide is good enough. But number two, we're using two different decision-making systems continually through the day. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman calls this thinking fast and slow. Thinking fast is your emotional judgment. This is the down effect, emotionally driven, because it's good enough and it's fast. So there's efficiency there, there's gain there. We can do more in a day because these emotional decisions are good enough. But sometimes when we've got an important decision, how am I actually going to spend my budget this month? This much goes to my wife. Well, okay, more goes to my wife. This much goes to the kids. This much goes to me, less to me, more to my wife. But when we start logically thinking through this, that takes time, that takes energy, that is thinking slow. But the point is, with 35,000 choices a day, the majority, the overwhelming majority of what we do every day is emotionally distilled. It's emotionally distilled. Now, there are upsides to this. If I know that I've done somebody a favor and I need something, I'm going to ask them for help first, reciprocity, because I know that through that emotional lens, they'll go, yep, I owe him one. It's the right thing to do. End of subject. End of subject. Commitment. If my kids say to me, Daddy, you said, again, end of subject. There's no pro or con involved here. I made a commitment. I keep my word. That's it. Now, you can use this proactively to persuade people. So there's upsides to this. But if we look at the brief exercise we ran and we think about the endowment effect or loss aversion, there can also be downsides to this. In negotiation, we call it a bias. In decision-making, we call it a bias. Okay, and this is why the emotional decision-making system is only just good enough. It is a biased system. And so what you're seeing on the screen right now is a really quick summary of what we've learned from the research. Okay, and all of this is going to lead to AI and digital nudging. I grew up at a time where I was educated in thinking about homo economicus, the idea that we are rational actors and we choose what is in our best interest. There have now been 5 Nobel Prizes that have effectively ended that idea. And what we realize is that human beings are overwhelmingly, though not exclusively, emotional decision makers. Okay, so that's system one here on the left in Daniel Kahneman's book. It's intuition, it's instinct, it is fast, but it's also error prone. But it's also where, by making everyday decisions this way, we gain so much efficiency in our day. Now, on the right is system two, which is that deliberate pro and con, careful judgment, weighing of the alternatives, factoring in the complexity of a situation, and across time, more slowly rendering a more nuanced and informed judgment. Data-driven approaches would fall over here, or should fall over here on the right. Now, this is thinking slow. And basically, what behavioral science does is take the Homo economicus that I learned back in the 1980s and flip it on its head and say, really, we are fundamentally, predictably irrational people. And so the problem then is that these fast decisions, these emotional decisions, are very, very strongly influenced by things such as my mood right now. It's amazing how huge the impact of your mood is. If you're hungry right now, decisions change. The context around you will change that split-second decision that you make emotionally. The weather, are you feeling blue? Are you feeling bright and cheerful? This will affect that split-second emotional decision that people make every day. And as a result, we are really, frankly, pretty unreliable decision makers, okay? This is where nudging comes in. If we are unreliable decision makers, can nudging help us become better decision makers? Can our choice day, in your case, any cases, we do know what the better choice is. If I sleep more, I'm going to be healthier. My mind is going to be clearer. Okay. If I exercise more, I'm going to be healthier. These are simple examples, but in so many walks of life, we do already know what's the better choice for us. How do we help people make that better choice? Well, we want to nudge them towards the better choice. And a nudge is nothing more than a short, snackable message that you can consume in only seconds. I say here 30 seconds a day, but as you'll see in a minute, the nudges I'm creating right now are probably 5 seconds a day. All you're doing here is trying to frame a choice that you already know people are going to make. And you're trying to put that frame into their mind before they make the choice. It's as simple as that. A short message that frames the choices we're going to make. And think about what you saw during COVID, all right? How many of us still line up on these stickers on the floor? I caught myself doing it just the other day when I was out. I still line up on these things. They're there, and we just simply do it. But during COVID, that helped ensure that we kept more than a meter between each person, and we thought would hopefully reduce risk of transmission. Okay, this is a very simple example of a nudge. Another famous example of a nudge. They took all the healthy organic food and they moved it to the front of the shelving. And then they took the crappy processed, ultra processed junk food and moved it to the back. Simply by changing the physical location, people started making healthier food choices. Nobody told them what to do. There was no commandment. There was no order. Every individual still has 100% free will, but simply by placing the better choice closer, the organic, natural food, people started making better food choices. It's really just about shaping the choice that people are going to make. This study is from the University of Pennsylvania, Katie Milkman. And during COVID, they texted people with this exact message. A flu vaccine has been reserved for your upcoming appointment. Now, flu vaccination is a very persnickety topic. People have strong opinions. There was a lot we didn't know about mRNA. An 11% uptake in the context of a flu. I looked at that and I thought, that's quite good. That's actually quite good. You know, would I like to have 11% more time, 11% more energy? Heck yes. To do that on a difficult topic like vaccination, this is good. And I've got here just some simple examples. I'll keep this short because I know time's ending. But the example up here on the top left, Gomo Health out of New Jersey would nudge cardiology patients who had left the hospital to stick to their regimen. That would involve pharmaceuticals. It would involve, getting up and getting active. What they did is they reduced hospital readmissions by 52%. 52%. Simple reminders. These aren't even advanced nudges. Simple reminders has that kind of impact on the execution. Look at right below it. Compliance with workplace safety procedures improved by 35%. This is from McKinsey. 35% gain. That means mom and dad are coming home to their children at night. What a great investment of nudging. Bottom right, fuel savings at Virgin Atlantic. They reduced fuel costs by $5.37 million, reduced emissions by 21,500 metric tons, simply by nudging pilots to be a little less like a fighter pilot where they would have been trained and a little bit more thoughtful about how they navigate through the storms and no drastic changes in the plane's flight path. And all of a sudden we see monetary and emission savings on this. Now, typically with the nudge, you can probably expect an effect size of 10 to 15%. All right, 10 to 15%. But again, who wouldn't like to have 15% more time? I mean, this is not an insignificant number. So going back to Robin's introduction, the AI behavioralist, that might be the first time I've used those words publicly. Digital nudging simply takes this notion of a short snackable message and puts it on your a technical platform. So here you see, this is an actual example of what I used inside Infineon Technologies with my very first in-market test. You can see what a nudge looked like.
And for those who need to, Infineon is a German semiconductor company.
So my startup is based in their co-innovation space. So this is what it will look like, or what it looked like 2 years ago. We now add behavioral science to it. Fresh start. There's a reason why we set New Year's resolutions, because we're actually more likely to keep them. So if somebody started a savings program on January 1, they would be 20 to 30% more effective during the course of that year with their savings. Baseball players, the American sport of baseball. When a baseball player moves to a new team, on average, batting averages increase 29%. They hit the 29% increase in the number of times they hit the ball. People who try to adopt a new habit when they move to a new home, 36% more successful. So choosing things like New Year's or a birthday or the first day of the month, simple science insights like this can make that new habit or that implementation even more effective. And what you'll see here is another one of my early nudges. Just look at the very first sentence. Today is the first Monday of a new day, a new week. That's the fresh start effect. All we're doing is reminding people it's a new month, it's a new week, it's Monday morning. This is the right time to try and implement one thing and make a difference in your life or in the work you're doing. Now, these are 3 examples of what digital nudges look like today. You can see I've become more visual, much shorter in how I'm starting to construct these nudges. So just simply reminding somebody, if you run an experiment, iterate fast. It's not about the failure. It's about how fast you implement what you just learned, at least from my point of view. I will defer, of course, to our hosts who have far more expertise here than I do. What will you read today? A simple rhetorical question. Learn in bite-sized pieces and add a little novelty. Company. And the idea is, how can we achieve these goals faster, better? That's where digital nudging comes in. So all we're doing now is building a back end on this technology that is driven with machine learning. And the idea is, how can we give you that nudge at the right time? If you're focused on learning, I want to nudge you before you take your coffee break, when you're likely to kind of look at that article or that podcast. Can I personalize the nudge to you? If you're a high achievement personality type or a low achievement personality type, I want to talk to you differently. So I want to personalize it. And I want to know what's going on in the context around you. And this is the hard part. This is where machine learning is going to struggle. And that's what really puts this kind of at the forefront. But AI is going to be able to factor in hundreds of variables and say, this is the right nudge for you right now. And that's exactly what we're building here. The very first tests have been run. AI added or improved the effect size by an additional 13.5%. These are incredibly rudimentary AI technologies. I think we can easily double this number. So now total effect size, I can help you improve by 20%. That is a real gain. What company wouldn't want to help their employees be 20% more effective? Or
Michael, will you leave us a little bit of time for questions? We've only got a couple of minutes left.
Final slide. Yes, I knew that. Final slide. So think of it this way. AI is going to make the nudging more powerful, but nudges can help with anything, but they are the solution to nothing. All right. So they go into your implementation plan. They are not the implementation plan, so to speak. So that's it. That's it.
Awesome.
My apologies for going to the top of the hour, but
No, we got a couple of minutes and we do finish on time. So we've got 3 minutes. So we're going to do a rapid fire questions if you're up for it. So first of all, thank you on behalf of the Institute for giving us your time and your phenomenal research. I'm going to go straight into the questions. What does a digital nudge look like? I mean, we understand from a Fitbit or on your phone, but for example, the McKinsey one you gave, where it's people in the workplace who maybe don't have mobiles or internet. How do are they, apart from on the phone, what else do digital nudges format take?
you can do it by email. You could plaster these things on the wall like a poster. They could be paint on the steps so that you see the edge of the step in front of you. Basically any visual form.
All right. Okay, thank you. We're going to go rapid. Jita, our newly celebrated doctorate. Once again, Jita, congratulations. She asked, this could be used as a marketing strategy to attract more customers, such as social media, which I guess is going into Nir's work in Hooked.
Is that so? The short answer is heavily already. And Robin has a great example of how millions of nudges go out every month at DBS to help people make insurance choices, investment choices, account management choices, and so on. Yes.
Okay, and our follow-up question is, if you're getting the same nudge every week, every other week, does it start to get commonplace and even boring? You know,
Absolutely. So I will end up crafting thousands of nudges. There will be multiple variables. So if I go back to Infineon, it might be empowerment, self-initiated learning, critical thinking, collaboration, and self-initiated learning on these. So there'll be variety in all of this. And then the technology will have 3 tiers as well. So this is something I would like to see a 2-year lifespan off of every customer.
Okay, and last 30 seconds, so it really is rapid fire. Ramas is pointing out, he can see the benefits, but he's concerned about the negative bias that can be injected into what could impact our rational choices. So it could be used.
Absolutely. Ethics is first and foremost. That's why I call my startup an AI for good company. I am old-fashioned. I do still believe in ethics, and I do remain focused on the opportunity to do good here, but I'm not naive enough to believe that politicians and others, we know where it's
last
going.
couple, and Daniel is saying this is synonymous with design thinking.
Design thinking is a process I use heavily to get to this model. So I hundreds of hours of empathize interviews and jobs to be done interviews.
Okay, and Wayne, you opened with him, so we'll close with him. Wayne, you're pointing out that what about the psychrometics? We have 24 distinct behaviors. We are wired at birth. Do you need the contextual relevance? Relevance is essential of nudging.
Context is the hard part, Wayne. You are 100% spot on, and that's what makes what we're doing with this AI so ambitious. The human realm is fundamentally different than, say, a manufacturing production line. I will keep this very brief. I am working off the latest available neuroscience. We are not hardwired at birth. The brain is plastic, and we can learn to make better choices even into life's absolute latest years, as long as we are healthy. So this entire project is built upon the assumption that the brain is plastic.
And our significant other continues to help us make better choices.
She does, and I'm sure I'll get that here in a couple of minutes. So,
Michael, we need to wrap it up because we do start and finish on time. You've been very generous with it. There's a lot of thank yous coming through. Can we just give a virtual round of applause and say thank you to Michael for his generosity? You've got the email there if you'd like more on this. Michael does write and publish a lot on it, as well as teach it. To everyone, we've had a great turnout from across the world today. Next month, we'll try and keep to the first Tuesday of every month. Please make sure you've marked your calendar for the conference. As members, you automatically will get a free pass for the conference. It's free for all members, but we'll be publishing details in the next few weeks. To everyone, thank you very much. It's wonderful to see you. Michael, you got something to add?
No. I just saw chat box. Go ahead.
Okay. To everyone, wonderful to see you, and we look forward to seeing you in 4 weeks. Have a wonderful implementation month. Bye, everyone.